Hello and welcome students to this video. We are looking today at the policies to reducing unemployment known as the solutions to reducing unemployment. So remember we looked at unemployment itself and the various types of unemployment and the benefits and also the costs of unemployment, whether it's linked to the society or individual cost. And we did evaluate that. We need to look at that and look at how policymakers can be able to reduce unemployment by considering both the individual cost and the social cost. So we need now to look at the policies that we can adopt that can reduce the overall unemployment in the economy. So let's get started. Okay, so we have you have to know that reducing unemployment requires a multifaceted approach, often involving a combination of economic, labor markets, and social policies that needs to be implemented so that we can reduce the overall unemployment. So let's get going. So we have what you call fiscal policy, which is a government policy that they implement by the US government spending and taxation to reducing unemployment. So the advantage is that government spending on infrastructure projects or other job creation initiatives can stimulate economic activity and employment, because if the government is going to be investing in large projects, overall they are reducing the overall unemployment in the economy, whereby stimulating economic activity. So by stimulating economic activity, you're increasing your overall output as a nation. So yes, no, we have that kind of unemployment that is linked to the overall output in the economy, which is the cyclical unemployment known as demand deficiency. So by increasing economic activity, you are you are increasing the chances of employment, thereby reducing cyclical unemployment. But the disadvantages of fiscal policy is that the effectiveness depends on the scale and the efficiency of the projects. Because some of the governments actually do projects, but there is no efficiency and there is no completion of those projects. And if poorly managed, fiscal policy may lead to increased public debt without delivering sustainable employment. This is a huge issue, but the politicians are the one who actually who end up in the interest rate. You are reducing the cost of borrowing, which can end up increasing the influence in the economic activity. So lowering interest rates can encourage borrowing and spending in the economy, because as you know, we need to increase the aggregate demand, because you know that consumers, whenever they borrow the money, they'll be able to spend in the economy on the overall goods and services, thereby reducing unemployment, stimulating job creation. But the disadvantage side is that the impact of employment may take time. There's a time lag involved in implementing these policies, because we have what we call the transmission mechanism, whereby the policies are supposed to be changed in 18 months. So this is the issue of whereby you look at the time factor. And excessively low interest rate can lead to financial imbalances and speculative behavior. I think we can learn from what Winston Churchill said that in order for us to predict the future, you have to look at the past, and you know what happens when the companies like central banks in the past, what they did in the thousands, where they were lowering interest rates, end up being stuck in a depression, also in a deflationary spiral. Look at Japan, was a good example of that. Then also look at education and training programs. So we need to be able to give the workers the skill required to reducing unemployment, because we have the type of unemployment whereby the skills have now become obsolete under structural unemployment. So we're looking at investing in education and training programs to help improve the skills of the workforce, making them more adaptable to evolving job market demands, because that's the huge issue that there will come machines that need to be operated, then they don't have the skill to operate such kind of machines, then they end up having a problem. Then the disadvantage is that this may not be immediate, because we can't train workers overnight. They take a long time for us to educate and give a skill uh, on a human being. And at the same time, the effectiveness depends on the relevance of the training to the current and future job needs, because you might end up training people with obsolete skills. The current job, they won't be able to be applicable in the job market in the future. So you have to consider that when making these relevant policies. Then also have labor market reforms, which is very important, the reforms in the labor market, because this is where most of the unemployment is being caused. Because we're saying that if you implement policies that enhance labor market flexibility, we make the labor market need to be flexible, because we are living in a much more dynamic world, but the business world need to continue to be innovative. Even the labor market itself needs to reform to formate the old ways of doing business. At the same time, we can encourage hiring and reducing unemployment, because we need was to be flexible, whereby we have Amazon, one of Jeff Bezos, actually have workers doing shifts, employing huge numbers of people. For example, reforms in employment protection legislation may make it easier for business to hire and adjust their workforce because all in line with the laws that are in place to make sure that it's much more easier for firms to freely hire workers flexibly. So we need to be able to have policies that make the labor market flexible. And also looking at the disadvantage side that they may be resisting such reforms because not all people will want that those reforms because they need to be carefully balanced to protect workers' rights while promoting the dynamic labor markets because we might end up focusing on the labor reforms at the same time we're looking at the dynamic labor market whereby the firms themselves they're looking at if workers are now looking for more reforms that's going to affect their profitability as a business. So they have to look for their own interest. That's why we're saying that they may face some resistance from those reforms, and it's very difficult for them to implement those reforms in the labor market. Then we have subsidies and incentives. These are actually very good policies in terms of increasing productivity and reducing production costs for companies. So we are looking at offering financial incentives or subsidies to businesses to encourage them to hire more workers, especially in targeted industrial regions, because you need to be able to have government subsidy incentives that increases production. At the same time, subsidies may be a form of money or inputs that help the firm in terms of the overall output that's going to produce. At the same time, we are looking at the disadvantage of using subsidies and incentives that there might be long-term sustainability of such measures and their potential to create dependence on government support need careful consideration because once you give firms subsidies and incentives whenever they have any problem that they're facing, then they're going to be much more reliant on you. You are likely going to cause inefficiency because they know that the government is going to step in and help us. So we need to be able to carefully consider whenever we are implementing such a policy uh, when we are targeting to reducing the unemployment in the economy. Then we have entrepreneurial support. So we talked about the point that we might end up looking at the unemployment being a good thing, that we will end up pursuing entrepreneurship and you creating jobs for other people. So we are talking about encouraging entrepreneurship and create the creation of new business and job opportunities because that you know that those companies, those job opportunities that have been going to open up are going to need workers and you have to know that entrepreneurship this is where the birth of new businesses. So we're talking about entrepreneurship takes time to yield results as you know that you're going to face competition from starting the new business venture, but you have to know that the risk of business failure is also going to be high, it's going to be high. So support should include not just incentive but also education and monitoring because to know that you are supposed to take a calculated risk in helping these entrepreneurs because as you know that once they succeed, they're going to reduce the overall unemployment by employing the people who are not being able to find work. Then we have job placement services. We're talking about the effective job placement service can match unemployed individuals with sustainable employment opportunities because you need to be able to continue to find people who who are able to do the job well. We are looking at investing in valuable assets, investing in the labor market that is valuable, investing in workers that have the skill to be able to become sustainable in employment opportunities. But you have to consider the outcomes that the success of this service depend on the quality of the matching process and the availability of suitable jobs. It was always goes back to the availability of the jobs. Are the jobs available to be able to be filled by those people who actually have a sustainable employment opportunities? So we have to look at the issue that we need job placement. There are services that make sure that we match the unemployed individuals with sustainable employment opportunities. They have to get the chance to be able to showcase their skill level and at the same time being able to work for their families. Then we have international cooperation. So we are talking about a policy in which we have the international community playing a role in reducing the overall unemployment. So we are looking in the globalized world we are living right now, where we become much more interconnected, interdependent on each other. We are trying to say that international cooperation can play a role in addressing unemployment by fostering trade agreements and economic stability, because these trade agreements are going to continue to increase economic growth for a country, and that allows the country to employ more workers because once you're increasing our national output, there's now an incentive to employ more workers to continue to increase the output. But this is all coming as a result of a globalized world, whereby we are talking about international cooperations agreeing on terms that benefit both worlds. At the same time, looking at the disadvantage section, we are saying that coordination among countries may be challenging because and policies should consider potential negative impact on certain industries or region. That's always the issue that they will have differences, um, cultural difference in coming up with any international agreement that they might agree between the countries, because it's always about the other side that the country want to benefit more from that agreement, and am I actually going to have more benefits if I agree to these terms? So it's all in line with the idea of regions, also industries as they're operating in that country. Can they find a mutual ground that they can benefit, whereby the industries from the other country will be benefiting and the industry from the other country will be benefiting from that foreign uh, trade agreement, also going to be fostering economic stability, which is a good way of reducing overall unemployment and just addressing unemployment in their countries. Okay, so this evaluation topic policies have been much more interesting, but we have to look at the whole conclusion that we should consider that a comprehensive and a coordinated approach is essential, because you have to continue to understand that the policies that you're going to use, look at the unemployment that you're facing in the country, and you should take into account this specific context of each country or region, because different countries have different types of unemployment. Also, you have to look at the policymakers themselves must carefully balance short-term measures with long-term strategies for more sustainable growth, job creation, and economic growth. So we are looking at the idea that policymakers don't suppose to just look at the short-term uh, measures, but also look at the long-term strategies of reducing the overall unemployment. Look at the use of supply-side policies. They might take a long time. Look at the ones that we're mentioning, the idea of education and training. They might take a long time, but in the long term, we are going to equip a lot of workers with the required skills so that they become valuable assets for the business, and they are not going to be employable into the future. So we are going to be able to say that it is all in line with the policymakers. They should consider the long-term strategies, and we should always uh, continue to look at sustainable job creation and also economic growth. Because the economic growth is the spark for everything. Because once we increase economic growth, we're increasing our national output, and the workers now become employed. Then they are going to increase their incomes. Then we are going to reduce the overall unemployment in the economy. So we always have to focus on economic growth, increasing our national output, because there's no industry that is willing to employ more workers if they don't have any job for them. So we need to come back to economic growth. So it's very important for you to understand that. So thank you so much for watching this video. So you have to know that when ESA comes on evaluating the policies to reducing unemployment, make sure that you know the advantages and disadvantages of the specific policies that you're going to be targeting. With this, I think.